You have to be able to master all of the emotions, good and bad. They were not meant to be all good, all good, all good. Sadness, anger, grief, control, there's all power within that, but how are you going to allow it to frame your life? What is the relationship that you have with that? Okay? Peace and love, everyone. I hope you all have an amazing day. It is Z, and today we are going to talk about shadow work. This is a topic that's been heavy on my chest this week. Shadow work in so many aspects. What does that look like? What does it mean? We hear it a lot in today's time. And a lot of people, surprisingly, do not know what shadow work means. So I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about what is it, how to go through it, how to grow through it, how to get through it. Gotta hydrate because this is going to be definitely one that is a little bit more serious and intense. So let's get into it. So what is shadow work? So shadow work is you getting comfortable and getting to know the dark parts of yourself. It's you having a conversation between all the parts of yourself that you avoid, intentionally or unintentionally. It's called shadow for a reason. It's the darker parts, so you don't always see them firsthand. It's a part of your subconscious even. So we are not always aware of our shadows. We are not always aware of the darker aspects of ourselves. A lot of times we have to be triggered in order for it to come out, or acting unconsciously in order for it to come out. So a lot of people always ask, how did I get into spirituality, or what are some things that can strengthen your connection with spirituality? And off rip, I always like, before you do anything, you have to know yourself, and you have to know every single aspect of yourself. You have to know what you're good at and what you're not so good at. You have to know what triggers you. You have to know your downfalls, where you fall short. You have to know when you're acting unconsciously. It's a conversation between the conscious and the subconscious. The subconscious is, you're not always aware of it, it's your subconscious. So to develop this relationship with your shadow self, or to do the shadow work, is to ask yourself the necessary questions. Ask yourself, what are you doing to hinder your growth? Is there anything that you are doing that is not beneficial to where you want to go, to what you want to do? Are you surrounding yourself with people that do not help you grow, that do not serve your highest good? Are you in an environment that is not motivating you? Do you have certain communication styles that are not effective? Do you act out in ways that are in detriment to your growth? Where are your issues? Where are the areas of improvement that you need to work on? A lot of people have a hard time having this tough conversation with themselves because it's not easy. Shadow work is not easy. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be easy. You're quite literally going in the dark, and you don't know where you at. You're in the dark, you're not knowing where you at. And you have to somehow find your way through it. You will, because it's you. You already kind of know exactly where you're going. You're just kind of doing it in a way that it feels unfamiliar. But some of us can have a hard time looking in the mirror. Have a hard time seeing what we fucked up at, because we know that we can't run away from ourselves. We know that we have to deal with ourselves, and it's nothing that we can point the blame to. Well, we can, and that's where you're operating in your ego. when you're constantly pointing the blame, when you're constantly blaming other people for why you are the way you are. You're blaming your past, you're blaming, like, it gets to a point where it's like, okay, if you know that all of these things are triggering you, then why are you, what growth are you doing? What work are you doing on yourself? You just allowing things to just control you. Shadow work looks like having the hard conversations, giving yourself constructive criticism when you need it, being able to look at yourself and say, damn, I fucked up. Damn, I was a little fucked up with that. It's about knowing or getting to know the wounded version of yourself as well. Taking a deeper look into why certain things trigger you. Why are you hurt by certain things? Why do you keep on making the same mistakes? Why do you keep on doing things that you know that do not serve you? Why do you keep surrounding yourself with people that you know aren't good for you? Why? It's getting to the roots, the root cause of why you're making decisions that do not serve you, why you're thinking in ways that are destructive. When we go all the way back to see why we're doing what we're doing, we find the solution. We find solutions to that. So, for instance, someone who can't seem to let go of a person that does not serve them may have abandonment issues. Where could these abandonment issues come from? A parent, an absent family member. And you begin to look at it as if, like, okay, that did happen to me. I do feel triggered when the topic of me being alone comes up. I do feel that because of this. So, now that I'm aware of that, I know how to work through it. I know that it's a fixable thing. I've been able to identify where it's coming from, so I'm going to fix it. It's being in control, right? It's being in control of the parts of yourself where you're not trying to look. You do have to be ready to say, damn, why did I do that? Or why did I act like that? And have these conversations with yourself over and over again. Shadow work looks like you having to get rid of an old version of yourself that you knew for so long. Because a lot of times when we're awakening, we realize that we have to shed. We have to literally shed the old version of ourselves. We have to shed that skin. And when shedding skin, when you have that new layer of skin, it's very raw. It's very raw, it's very fragile, it's very tender, and it can hurt, right? So like I said, it was never meant to be easy. It's not going to be easy. Sitting with yourself and getting to know the dark parts of yourself is going to be a challenge. It's going to be an ongoing thing that's going to be a part of your lifestyle. Because doing shadow work does not mean that you're no longer going to be triggered by a situation. It's just going to make it easier to navigate through something that does trigger you. You're going to say, okay, I'm being triggered because of this. Let me take a breath. I know it's not their fault. I know it's not my fault. And let me respond in a way that serves me and the person, or me and the situation. So when you get to know that version of yourself, when you go back to see why you are the way you are in certain aspects, you learn to respond differently. You act differently. You think differently. It's not that you're going to stop being triggered or things are just going to stop coming up, but you're going to respond differently. But had I not known why I am feeling the way I'm feeling, I would just react. And then who knows how that's going to turn out, right? So you have to be ready. You have to be ready to take action. You have to be ready to be disciplined. You have to be ready to sit with yourself and look in the mirror and not hold on to guilt, not hold on to the negative parts of it. It's like you get to know it, you observe it, and then you move on. You don't hold on to it, because a part of shadow work, some people can become very guilty about the things that they're realizing about themselves. They can become very guilty and shut themselves off because they're noticing that they may have been a problem in a lot of situations. But the purpose of shadow work is not to make you feel guilty or to make you feel bad about yourself. You always want to give yourself compassion. You always want to give yourself grace, because at the end of the day, you are human and we're going to make mistakes, right? It's just to balance you out. Now you are conscious of what you're doing. You're conscious. So now you're not going to then go and respond the way that you would have responded before. It's growing. It's healing yourself. It's patching up wounds that you did not even know was there. So you do have to ask yourself, what in my life am I not in agreement with at the moment? What in my life feels like it's ready to go? What type of life do I want? When you ask yourself what type of lifestyle that you want, what type of energy that you want to give off, you begin to notice when things are out of alignment with that. So shadow work, in my opinion, and the easiest way that I can say is just being conscious of things that you weren't conscious of before. Recognizing when you may be the problem. I read in this magazine, I forgot what magazine I was reading, but a mantra that you can say sometimes is, I may be wrong. I may be wrong. I may be wrong. I may be wrong about this. I may be wrong. Because saying that makes you take a step back and really analyze the situation before you react, right? Shadow work is also looking back into the past to potentially see where you could have gone wrong, where you could have done something differently, where you could have communicated more maturely, where you could have done something in a way that was more conscious. So you do have to go back. Like I said, you do have to go back to older aspects of yourself to analyze. It's like stepping out of your body and like going into observer mode and like flipping through the book, the pages of your life, and being like, damn, I actually probably was tripping. Or damn, I didn't even have to respond like that. Or damn, I low-key have an anger problem. Or damn, I low-key do not know how to communicate. I'm low-key bossy as fuck. Like, the things that I had to realize about myself in the past is that I could have been very, very blunt in how I say things. I'm very straightforward. That's not going to change. Like, I'm very straightforward about what I say. But something that I learned about myself is that there's a difference between being there's a difference with being blunt and like very harsh and being straightforward. And there was a time where I could not differentiate the two. There was a time where I really couldn't I didn't think it was a problem. As long as I was telling you the truth, that's all that mattered, right? But it got to a point in my life where multiple people would tell me like, damn Z, like you didn't have to say it like that. Like damn, like people kind of shied off from telling me things because they were almost afraid of how I would respond. And I didn't like that. Like after a while I realized like, damn, that's not my intention. Because one thing about shadow work is what you'll realize is that it's not always about your intention. It's about the choices that you make with that, right? So my intention could have been truthful, but my way of doing it is very harsh. And if you don't have compassion when communicating, it's no point. People are not going to hear you. People are not going to hear me. So a lot of times, although I was telling the truth, people weren't hearing me because I was saying it very harshly and in a way that was inconsiderate of their feelings. So now I looked at that and I say, damn, like, okay, if my intentions are to be truthful, how can I be truthful but in a way that still shows compassion, in a way that's very considerate of the person's feelings? Because I wasn't aware that, like, I could have just been neglecting the feelings out of just wanting to be honest. So that's one thing that I've had to learn. So that's just an example, like looking back at how people respond to you and saying, damn, I could have been wrong. Like, I might have been wrong in that instance. Like, I actually could have been there's some areas of growth there. So I'm glad that I was able to go through those experiences, because without those experiences, I probably would still be, kind of being real harsh with my communication. So this is why you shouldn't feel guilty or hold on to those things, because had you not have gone through them, you wouldn't have nothing to compare. You would have nothing to say, oh, I've done this, I'm going to grow from this. You wouldn't have nothing to look at, no shadow to look at, to grow from. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing, and it was a tough conversation that I had to have with myself, and that's just one of many things that I have realized about myself that could have been in detriment to my growth. So it's going to be a long thing. It's going to be a thing that's constant. That still to this day I'm working with, learning to relax, learning to not be in control in a way that I feel like I always have to have my hands in all the pots. Like, it's okay to allow people to exist on their own, regardless of my intentions. So that's something that I'm still working on to this day, but I'm aware of it, right? I'm not doing it in an unconscious manner. I'm aware of it, so when it happens, I'm like, okay, let me dial it down. And when you're aware of it and other people can see that you're aware of it, they also have more compassion for you, because they see that you are growing. Although you may not be there, you may have not mastered that emotion, you're still growing. So that's my take on shadow work. You have to be ready to take action. You have to be ready to be disciplined. You have to be ready to have tough conversations about yourself. You have to be ready to be in observer mode for yourself and for all the unconscious things that you may have done or do. You have to go back into the past and see where you could have been wrong, and sometimes you have to say that, like, damn, I might be wrong. You have to see where you are doing things that go against your growth, that go against the things that you say. And not feel guilty about it, to see it, to observe it, to acknowledge it, shake hands with it, and move on. And always remember that your shadow is going to be a part of you forever. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're going to be triggered. It's like yin and yang. You need it to create a full circle. You need shadow in order to expose light, and you need light in order to expose dark. But this is not something that you're ever going to be able to get rid of. Your shadow is just as important as your light. Getting to know your shadow just makes it so you are not acting in a way that's unconscious or in a way that is in detriment to your growth. In detriment? Whatever. You get what I'm saying. Get comfortable with that part of yourself. Get comfortable. Don't make yourself feel bad for having certain aspects of yourself. Don't make yourself feel bad. Don't feel like it's something that you got to completely erase. More so, it's something that you have to refine. Something that you have to have a meet and greet with. Like, hey, I see you, dude. I see you. I feel you. But we're going to have to figure out another way to act on this. You know what I mean? Because our shadows can really overtake us and cause us to act in ways that are harmful to ourselves and to others, and we don't want that. We definitely don't want to be living in that type of mindset or this unconscious way of doing things and thinking especially as an adult, especially as somebody who has goals, who has community, because your shadow can really affect other people as well. So have a conversation with your shadow, get to know it, become best friends with it, tame it, know that there are going to be things that still trigger you. It's there as a part of you. You're never going to be able to leave it alone. It's not going to leave you alone. Once you redevelop the relationship with it, you will have more of an ability to be more tactful with it. You will utilize it to your advantage at that point. You won't allow it to control you and cause destruction to your life. So that's my take. We are all working on something. We all have something to work on. There's no person in this world who is perfect. You have to be able to master all of the emotions, good and bad. They were not meant to be all good, all good, all good. Sadness, anger, grief, control, there's all power within that. But how are you going to allow it to frame your life? What is the relationship that you have with that? Okay, so that's my take. Know that you are loved regardless. As long as you're not intentionally out here hurting nobody, know that you're always going to be taken care of. Give yourself grace. If you are intentionally out here hurting somebody, you really got to look in the mirror and say why, and make conscious efforts to not do that shit ever again. Because still, this is a no judgment zone. I'm sure there's been times in our lives where we wanted to be on get back, you know. We wanted to intentionally hurt somebody because they hurt us, or because, you know, somebody might just be mean. But people grow. I'm a firm believer in watching people grow and be better versions of themselves, but you have to be willing to take a look at yourself and say, what the fuck am I doing? So that's my spiel. I hope you have a great day on purpose, and I'll see you at the next